Good afternoon. So I want to pose a question to you. Are you a fan of Jesus or are you a follower? Another question. Do you know or know about the gospel or do you live it? Matthew chapter 14, starting at 22. Immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went upon the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. In the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost." And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." There's a distinct difference between fans of Jesus and followers. And it takes some introspection to be able to answer that question with him or even by yourself if you've got the courage to do so. It's interesting to me, Peter said, "If it is you, call me to you." Jesus is standing out on the water. There's a demonstration, there is an appearance of the possession of faith that Peter possesses in that text. See, he knows who Jesus is, but in that moment is questioning whether or not it's him out on the water. And he tells him to come, and he gets out on the water. One of the biggest differences I see in fans versus followers are those who ask him to call them. A lot of fans will tell you what it's supposed to look like and what it means. You're supposed to know the gospel, and that knowing it is the end-all be-all. Whereas the follower knows Jesus and lives the gospel, and that is the end-all be-all. And it is important the words that are used and how they are conveyed and articulated, because sure, someone might say you need to know the gospel, and the implications there mean you need to know him and live the gospel with him, much as what's demonstrated here. But most people don't. It's a thing of the mind, a thing of the will, something that we can possess. But a more interesting part here is how those that know the gospel, those that are a fan of Jesus, versus those that know Jesus and live the gospel, are the reactions and their actions. Here they are out on a boat, tossed by the waves. Here they see someone, something coming. Jesus speaks to them and say, "It's me, I'm here, don't be afraid." But rather than questioning, Peter calls out, "Call me out. Pull me out there." Distractions look different to fans than they do followers. Distractions happen with both sets of people. Distractions can come in many different ways. But the difference is how the person responds to those distractions. Peter is here standing in front of Jesus, standing on the water, a supernatural just experience in and of itself. But it says he sees the wind. And I can only imagine what that means when he says he sees the wind is moving the water, is blowing the waves around. The environment, the circumstances that he is in are influencing him. And he takes his eyes off of Jesus and immediately he begins to sink. And Peter's response is, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus does just that. Whereas a lot of fans will tell you, if this is happening to you, then you're obviously not doing this, or you're not doing that, or you don't have it figured out. There's pressure to perform. And in that moment, the only thing that Peter did, he responded to the question that he put to Jesus and Jesus' response, and he stepped out on the boat. But even standing out there with him, knowing who he was before, he still got distracted. And in a moment of utter fear and terror, as I can only imagine, he did the only thing that made any sense to do, and that was, Lord, save me. We don't see in the text he tried to save himself. No, he cried out to the one who called him out of the boat. Living the gospel demonstrates, at least in this story, the appetite those that belong to Jesus have for him. If it is you, call me out onto the water. Versus those that try to describe your lives and tell you where you are and where you're not according to their understanding of the gospel and what it means. So ask yourself, which one are you? Are you the one that tells people what they are supposed to look like and what it should look like, and not realize that faith is both a spectrum and a process? It is grown as he calls you out as you seek him. And 1 minute, this end of the spectrum, you can be standing on the waves with him, and the next minute you're on the other end and you're sinking, needing him to save you. Knowing him is to experience him. Knowing about him is to create him in your own mind as to what you think. And it's easy to look at your life and see comfort and solitude and right order of things, to say that because I am this way, I am right with Jesus. When following Jesus is anything but neat and orderly, it's not easy. It's scary. Finding yourself in a circumstance, not sure if you're seeing him in it, only to call out to him and asking him to call you to him. Even in that demonstration of faith, as little as it was in the face of the distractions, even that little bit of faith still called out, Lord, save me. My distractions oftentimes where my distractions come from the most, of the fact that my mind is quieter now than it's been in my entire life. And as I sit in silence, the thoughts that I entertain, missing my family, missing Anna, missing Daniel, Liliana, Timothy, Jesse, and a few others' names that I won't call, that are even closer in distance, but still just as far away, that I miss terribly. And it's the wind in this case is hopelessness. It's despair. It's looking and seeing where I'm at versus where I'm not and where I want to be. And I've found that in those moments it has become a custom for me that was not before. Jesus saved me, because I don't want to be here. And I'm not necessarily talking about the circumstances, but in that place where all I see is the despair, all I see is the hopelessness, all I see is what I don't see him doing. And I was comforted in that yesterday by a brother as we talked about the difference between knowing about him and knowing him, being a fan versus a follower. And it brought me comfort, but it also brought the reality that the walk's not easy. It doesn't always look the way you want it to, doesn't always look the way it should. But where you're going, you won't ever see rightly until you're there, because you're following him. Distractions are normal. They happen. But look at yourself and look at the gospel and look at him and see, are you a fan or a follower? You can be a fan and not a follower. You can be a follower and step back and be a fan. But to follow him is to live the gospel, not just know it. It's a wild ride, but it is good. And every time you cry out to him, he will save you. That much I promise you. Just as he did for Peter as he stepped out on the waves. Y'all have a good day.